There is something about a rose garden on a beautiful late spring day, isn't there? What an amazing smell. As you watch this DVD, you really are going to have your favourite perfume beside you, so you can just give yourself a squirt of it every time somebody smells a rose or talks about the smell in the next 60 minutes. Garden roses are what my invited guests are going to use. Favourite designers from the Waikato region of New Zealand. And first question I asked them was, how are your roses out? They all said yes. So you're going to see the garden roses. And the advantage of garden roses is that you can get not only the rose in full bloom, but you can also get the bud and the half out rose. This gives you enormous possibilities in flower arranging. Cut roses from a flower grower are going to give you longer stems and longer lasting, but you're not going to get that beautiful graduation in the life of a rose. They're going to show you in volume 2 of Beginner's Guide to Roses just some lovely things that they like doing with their favourite garden roses.
Hello, I'm Kay Skidmore and I have made 6 designs to show you what you can do with roses. I've been doing and going to floral work possibly since the 70s, and I love it. I'm still going and I'm still doing floral art. Hope you all get interested in floral art. This first design that I'm going to show you is this twirl is aluminium, and you need 3 tubes, and we're going to use there's this lovely yellow rose, and this is Angelica, the flower of Angelica. I'm just going to put some water in these tubes. This ribbon that I found at a fair, you may be able to go and have it cut, because it's just so quick and easy to do this design, and it's lovely on a table. So I'll show you now how I've done it, and putting this Angelica in first. Simple, roses go on top. You can use and change any and go to any colour. Easy peasy. Now I'm going to show you another design. This is lovely. I love pink. This design that I'm now going to show you is a lovely glass bowl, and inside is water pearls. I've already soaked them in water. This is how they come when you buy them. They're very tiny pinheads, and they swell to this dimension. This is a netted wire that I crunched in together so that I can put it in here to the bowl.
Can you buy those, or did you make that?
You can buy them.
Oh, true. Are they used for bouquets?
I'll show you. It came like this, very huge sort of thing, and I've only really used it like that. And I've often put things in it there. Then what I decided to do is crunch it all up close, so it gives another dimension of material inside the glass. I pushed it into the water pearls, which have already soaked.
Those water pearls are all you need for the roses. You don't need to add any more water or anything.
Often there's a reserve of water underneath, and they is where the stalks go, so to keep them alive.
And what is the rose?
The rose is Constance Spry. Now, she was the original lady in England that started floral art. She was a lovely designer.
She's aging very well.
I'm just putting these buds in here just to give the lovely pink look. Now I'll show you how to do this design. This is a delightful red rose and the colour scheme is green and red. And so now I will take it down and show you how to do it. It's nice to have a long trough. I have black stones here, a pin holder, and this is my pin holder also to help control these tall roses. So I'll just pop these black stones at this end. Just part of the mechanics that look very nice. Put this pin holder in there. And this is the stretched wire that is going to sit over there to help support the material.
Also hides a pin holder, doesn't it?
It does. Gorgeous, beautiful red rose.
Did you make those leaves shiny?
No, they're nature itself.
Wow.
If you do want to shine leaves, use some oil, any oil that you can wipe with a piece of tissue, brings them up lovely. These are agapanthus buds.
And what are the black sticks? Are they just black sticks?
They're just black sticks. They were much longer than this,
Yeah.
and I have cut them in half.
Did you spray paint them or they come?
No, they came sprayed.
But they could matte black, I guess, if you had sticks. That's all you have to do is spray paint.
That's right. Yes, they just spray paint them.
And that's just being pushed straight down into that.
Into the
holder.
pin. These have gone into the pin holder. Frightened I might break them.
And of course, a pin holder takes a little bit more skill than floral foam, doesn't it? Yes.
Delightful Aspidistra leaf, cream and green. Just folded this over here, and then I've poked down in here, and it holds itself.
You make it look so simple, Kay.
It's a very simple design to do, quick and easy. I'll have to straighten that rose up in a minute. Just have to turn it around and have a look. Hope you'll do that at home. This design I'm going to show you and tell you how I did it. Just to start off with, inside the container is floral foam, yellow roses only, and this is a shrub that I happened to pick up, and it looks gorgeous, got a shiny leaf, and these are the little flowers on it. So if you have a look, I put all the greenery in first, Then I put all the roses in, and I'm quite happy with the way that has turned out. This is a power ball that I have glued on a polystyrene ball with the hot glue gun.
So you put every bit of that power onto a polystyrene ball. How long
Yes.
did it take you to do that?
Oh, it took me about 2 afternoons to finally get it done.
But you'll have it forever.
Yes, I will.
Known as abalone in the rest of the world.
Yes. So this is the container that I have these flowers in. It's the cup that sits in there. And I have used Cecil Brunner roses, lavender, asparagus fern.
I can see some Equilegia seed heads.
Aquilegia, yes, and some variegated ivy. It's the rose, the little rose makes it look stunning. It's a delightful little bunch of flowers, I think. Green and pinks and lavender.
And you've put it on a stand. Is that on a
This is
spike?
This is a spike that it's on, but it will sit on its own there, but it just supports it. There's a hole up the middle of the power.
Especially if you've got little kids arriving.
Yes, exactly. But I love this colour scheme with the power. The lavender and the pale pink.
And you did it in a bowl shape. I mean, it's if a person's a beginner, it's actually quite hard to do that shape to start with, isn't it? How do you keep it all so that it stays in that shape?
First I started off with some camellia leaves going round, then I put the asparagus fern on top, and then I put the more open roses in at the top and the little ones down below, just to start filling it all up. And then as I went along, I put bigger roses down below, the lavender I poked in where the gaps were, and it's like almost like a little bouquet the way it has worked. Just another idea, if you'd really like to make a focus of it and glam it all up, this is another thing you can do. Put them together and have 3 bunches of flowers on top. The base of this ball is actually a light shade. It was a lamp shade, and it fitted up in here. And Kay took it out, and I do many things with it. Today I have got this gorgeous rose that a friend gave me, and they're in glass tubes. I'll show you. Just take the rose out. This is the Christmas decoration that I've got all the way around, and here's the tube that holds the rose. So the wire can be twisted out to hold there. You're not adding anything to put them there. It just works like
Just
a
by
dream.
pushing it through the wire of the lampshade.
Yes. Put the rose back in, or put the decoration back in. Put the decoration in there, and the rose in there, and there you go. It's as simple as that.
Instant Christmas.
And
Or coronation.
or for any event.
Well, thank you, Kate. It was just magnificent. And thank you for letting us all have a peek at the roses from your place. Oh, wasn't Kay just wonderful? We're back now at the headquarters of the DVDs. So I'm going to take you inside and introduce you to 2 more of my favourite designers who are waiting in the studio.
Hi, I'm Margaret Terrell, and I have been doing floral art most of my life. My nana and my mum taught me years ago, and I have never stopped. I love it. I have a beautiful garden, And I love this rose. I wish you had smell-o-vision because it's got a beautiful perfume. The only trouble is it has a very short stem, and you can see from this how short a stem it is, that when you pick it off by the buds, you've got a stem about like that. So I have designed this piece to make the most of this rose that's very, very short. My husband made me this wooden trough. Because it is wood, I painted it inside and out until I knew it was waterproof. I tested it with water a few times to make sure. So, and I have painted it today, the colour to match my roses. It was a dark green, so this morning I changed it. I did it a motley colour. I mixed up my white with a bit of red. I didn't stir it properly, so I got this mottled effect. I cut the floral foam the width of the trough and soaked it, put it in here carefully, and then I wanted it the same height, so I have got my knife and I have cut along here to make it level. I have got this Astelia, which is rather nice, and I want it to come back and fold over like this, using the Fibonacci system of 1, 3, 5, 8, 13 and so on. There's half, quarter, so 5/8 is about there, so I want that to end up about that length. So in the meantime, I'll just put it down there and put a few mossing pins just to hold it in place. I'm going to cut the end off here. I'm not worrying about it being in water,
Margaret, why doesn't it need to be in water?
because it lasts fairly well out of water, and I'm making the most of that characteristic. I want to put these in graduated sizes, so I'm just going to sort them out here from the smallest to the largest, because I want to graduate them down there.
And this is the advantage of having garden roses, isn't it, over built ones?
Yes, they have actually opened since I picked them this morning. These buds were quite tight, but never mind. Now all I have got is a satay or kebab stick. I'm just going to make a hole right through there and put that stem down in there. And I'm going to keep repeating that until I get to the end. I'm keeping them quite close because I want them to be one solid line. And I wish you could smell them because it is just delightful. Surprising how big that little hole's got to be to make that firm. Now these stems I have not cut shorter for this. It's just exactly as they have come off the rose bush.
And if you're buying roses, of course, the short stem ones are cheaper anyway, aren't they, Margaret?
They are. I doubt whether you get them this short though.
Great way of using up all the accidents in a florist shop.
Yes, yes. And just imagine sitting at a table with the perfume coming off here and being able to talk to the person on the other side of the table. There we are, that's the first stage of it. Now the next stage is folding this up over here. And what I want to do here is get this longer one, and I want to aim for a little gap there. I've got to make a hole through there to put this rose stems through. Just up to there, and then I'm going to, and another hole through the Astelia so you can get it down into the floral foam. That's almost there. Now, I wanted to put some bling with it, and these are ordinary beads, pearl beads that you buy from a craft shop. And what I have done is I have a lot of different coloured nail polishes or nail varnishes that I got cheaply at a sale, and all I have done is varnish them with this nail varnish to get the colour I want. And anything I do that I want to change the colour, I use that nail varnish.
Do you put them on a stick or something so you don't go?
I just put them on something like a mossing pin, and I will stick it into a piece of Oasis and just paint around it until it's dry. I got some ordinary toothpicks and a nail varnish that matches my roses. I varnished them to get my colour so that they wouldn't stand out, and then all I'm going to do is just push that hole onto there because it won't slide down. First of all, I'm going to cut them because they're too long. And I'm just going to spread a few of them through here. Not too much of a line, just scattered here and there through it.
This would be wonderful, Margaret, in winter too, when you can buy some roses and you've got hardly anything in your garden, because it's very economical, isn't it?
It is very economical. What have we got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 roses. If it was a little shorter, you could do it with a deck. Yes. I think it would look lovely for Christmas decorations too. I got some longer satay sticks, kebab sticks, because I would like to put that up there. And another one that I did the same. There we are. That's all it took. Very simple, very easy, and much fun. I love it.
My name is Pauline Sexton, and I come from Morrinsville, which is on the Hauraki Plains, and it's probably quite a good place for gardens. Morrinsville is a country town, and we have a quarter-acre section, which isn't terribly big, so one becomes very well aware of what other people grow in their gardens. Before floral art, I potted for some years until it became a little heavy, and with that you do learn about balance and colour and texture, and it all carries from one art over to the next. It's quite interesting when you are working with one particular flower. You look at how you're going to use them in a totally different way, or I do, to if you're going to use half a dozen flowers in a design. And the effect can be quite dramatic. So, these roses, Graham Thomas, has come from my neighbour. She is a plants woman. She really picks flowers of her own, and I have a funny feeling she may have a bowl of artificial delphiniums and roses in her kitchen window. They do look quite nice. Fortunately, she doesn't have a problem with me wandering round and picking. So I got these, And these roses will sit in these little tubes of flax. Before doing this, you do need to play with your colours a bit. And this tatty piece of flax, when you see it with this rose, I don't think it does justice to the rose. Graham Thomas does have lovely honey gold tints and tones, depending on the maturity of the flower. And I think these colours are more dramatic with it. We'll start off by cutting a piece of flax. With the flax, it's not a bad idea to run your scissors along it. Just soften it up a little bit. And then I will cut it. I hope I've got roughly the right length. I shall make a point at the end. It does actually look a little bit more interesting. Then just make a little coil, and then we try and put in a discreet staple. Right, done. Then we just place them round. When the roses are placed, you do have to be a wee bit careful and cut the stems about the depth of the piece of flax. So that will be cut roughly there. Must remember to put it in the right one. Just set it there. And so on until I have filled up.
This is a wonderful idea if you don't have floral foam in the house, isn't it?
Yes. I think roses do prefer water. And I'm quite keen on having things as natural as possible. Now, pop some water in there. Any dish will do. It could be a stainless steel. This is my cake plate, in actual fact. And then when I'm putting it on a wooden table, I use a coaster. The coaster has wee legs on, so it sits there, and if any water gets spilt, then the air can get it, and you're not going to have stained wood. That is my suggestion for using roses. Very simple, low, clean. Watch your colours with the flax. It can make a big difference when you see them lined up. If I'd had a lemon rose or a cream one, I think this flax would have looked quite nice.
Or a white rose with green too, wouldn't it? Very chic.
White, yes, just what you can find. How good you're at walking around the neighbourhood and finding things. Thank you. This is my piece of driftwood that I picked up on a Portakey beach in the Eastern Bay of Plenty. And this wonderful piece of wood, you see so many different things from it. You can put it on a spike. You can lay it this way. You can take it that way. And it's got eyes. That eye goes in a very long way. However, I'm going to use it this way today. Because the balance wasn't quite right, I elected to just pop a bottle top, glue a bottle top on there. It was much easier than getting out a hammer and little nails. It seems to support it very well at just the right height. I have these flowers that I got from my friend's place, and I think they're absolutely gorgeous, and I love them with this wood. With driftwood you do get a lot of tints and tones, colours, textures. It goes on and on. Just here you can see a little bit of bark that has come off recently. To just add a wee bit more interest, I'm going to put some flax, bind a wee bit round here. It's not the easiest. I have started. It doesn't sit extremely well. Flax, I rub the scissors across it. It makes it softer and more flexible. Perhaps if I'd had it out of water an extra day, it would have been better. I shall wind this round, and there's another thing about flax. It is quite a good idea to use the back side. The front side is shiny. Use the back side. It is a little more dull, but when you want to bend the flax, when you bend the front, you don't get a nice smooth edge. It gets all sort of broken and crinkly. Do it the reverse way and the edges are nice and smooth. So this is being put on in the reverse manner, and hopefully it's going to go on smoothly. This is actually quite difficult because the piece of wood is so uneven. It's the nature of the thing. You can't do anything about it. Now we've got round here. That looks about the end. So I shall glue that little end, tuck it away, and that's that. Now I'm going to fix some of these small tubes. They will be filled with water. I'll place these round about tucked in here. I could have used some floral foam here, wrapped in a little piece of plastic, but I'm using these little tubes, which I shall now glue in. You don't need much glue to go on these, just a little daub, and then you can take them off quite easily. And I think we'll have one last one just in there. We'll now put some roses in, and when we have got these in, I may need one up there. That'll be another tube. These roses came from my friend's place last night. I saw them, and they have a lovely form to them. They're very dainty, and to me they're just right with the wood. I did try using the roses called Dimples. It wasn't very successful. They were too fluffy. It just didn't look right. There's a bit of a tight squeeze going on here. And I think I will pop another tube just up here. I could have a little problem here with balance, because that is quite heavy and that is light and fluffy. However, I like it the way it is, and I just love these little roses with the wood, the greyness and all the textures. These are my ideas for using roses, just one rose. You could do this design with lots of different ones. Get a totally different effect. Roses and driftwood with some flags. You can play forever and get a totally different effect. And then, well, I'm not going to turn this upside down now, but you'd get a very different look to it if you used roses on it differently. So have a go and just try and use one flower. You might in the spring decide to use daffodils. They're a challenge and they're fun.
Isn't it a treat to see the flower ranges from this area of New Zealand sharing their work, just using that single rose? Lots of ideas for you. And now we're going to start complicating things by adding the rose to other flowers and foliage. The thing to do is when you are selecting them either from your flower market or your own garden is you're looking for contrasts of texture. So I'm going to show you how to do some classic designs that are called different things depending on their shape. They're all based on a pattern. Everything is placed in the floral foam in some sort of a pattern. If it is done in a pattern that goes upwards, it's called a Biedermeier. For example, have a look at this wonderful Biedermeier that we spotted when we were in Auckland at a recent competition. Of course, you can also go flat, and if you go flat and use a pattern, it is called pavé. And once again, here's a wonderful example of pavé, this time by an English designer. It can be any shape, any height, but always a pattern. Our European correspondents have just sent me these wonderful photos of what the Belgian people call a Viennese cake. And you can see it is still exactly the same idea, but it is in a cake form. Once they've taken slices out of the top, as you can see here, or they have just completely decorated that circular form in some way, starting now to become less of a pattern and more of just a series of lovely designs. Now I've been out in the garden, and you can see here I was selecting plant material that went together. And this is just as I put them in the bowl to pick them in the garden, and it suddenly struck me it's actually another idea for you. If you don't have floral foam available, you want a very quick design, you're not going to sell it, you're just going to make it to put inside in your own home or someone else's that you're visiting. It's perhaps a technique you don't know, where all you need is a casserole dish. So as I take these flowers out, that's a beautiful dahlia. These are everlasting hydrangeas, and these are parsley seeds. I'll just show you once again how I did it that can create a lovely little pattern design with no mechanics whatsoever that you have to buy. A casserole dish, a white one in this case, any will do. These are parsley seed heads, and as you're putting them in, put them so that they go around the edge of the bowl. This is forming a natural grid that your other things are going to go into. If you don't just throw them in the bowl like I did there. Obviously you're not going to find parsley seed heads, but you're looking for anything that has got a longish stem and interesting head on the top, because this is going to be the very, very outside edge of your arrangement if you're going to do a very quick one. This is wonderful when you're visiting. You say, I'd like to do an arrangement for you. You head for the kitchen, you find a casserole dish, and then the two of you and your host go for a wander in the garden and look for contrasting things They will have an instant little unexpected present from you, and at the same time they'll have enjoyed showing you around their garden. You can do this even if you're visiting an apartment, if they happen to have some pots of flowers outside. Seed heads are wonderful. You can find them in lots, vacant lots, wildflowers, in the middle of a city. You'll always find seed heads. So you can see there that that's given it a real foundation to be able to weave the other things into it. Pretty simple. And I have purposely left on the leaves of the hydrangea, and these are just going to go, once again, round we go. You're not going to believe how quick this is. I'm aware this is a DVD about roses, but I just thought I'd just show you what you can do. Once again, there's your contrast, and I've picked the red hydrangeas that aren't out because they are going to contrast with my big dahlia. If I had a big rose, that would go in the middle, but I don't. I only have these little ones. And so I'm making an informal circle once again around the edge. It's all holding itself together, taking me a couple minutes, and then of course you're looking in your friend's garden for one great big beautiful specimen flower, and that goes straight into the middle. Now that's pretty simple, isn't it? Pretty simple, very effective, looks wonderful in the middle of a table if you're starting to have a lovely lunch or something like that, and they'll just think you're pretty clever, and actually you are. So that's that done if it was going to be for a home. And I've done exactly the same things with these roses. These are climbing rose out in my garden. They don't last too long, but they can achieve the same purpose. Once again, I've just been round the outside, and then I cut some slightly bigger to put them through the middle, and it's just instant. An instant old-fashioned way of arranging flowers, as Pauline just said in the last segment, keeping it natural. So now we've kept it natural, we'll go back to the floral foam and do a more formal version. So now for the real deal. This design is absolutely perfect, whether you want to sell it in a flower shop, or whether you want to give it away as a gift for somebody who you love, or if you want it for your own home. You're going to need a circular container. The one I've got here is an old flan dish. You can see it's got a crack down through it. It still retains water, but certainly couldn't use it for food. I also have a very, very solid popper vase. This would definitely be too heavy for resale. But the other wonderful thing you could use is in your garden centre, and it is a plastic base normally that is used underneath big flower pots. They're very, very cheap, they're very, very light, they come in green and they come in brown, so they're perfect for a flower shop that your customer can take them out, and it hasn't cost you very much for them. And the other thing you're going to need is wet floral foam. I've used 4.5 blocks here, and the reason I put them into that shape is because that's going to give me the key to where I'm going to cut the foam, so that then it will just slide in really, really nicely. Don't throw away these pieces. They're not waste. They can be used for all sorts of amazing things in the course of the day. Just to keep them nice and wet, wrap them in plastic, and I'll keep for weeks actually. Still wet. Once floral foam has dried out, you can't re-wet it successfully for it to retain that water. Pretty easy using it as a template, isn't it? And there's the circle. A big block of floral foam like this is very heavy. And we pop the jigsaw together.
There it is, all done, the jigsaw in place. Now just smooth off the edges with your hand like this. The sharp edges tend to show up and make your design sharper on those edges that you don't actually want. So by doing this either with your hands or with a knife, it just reduces that a little bit. So now really any child could do this. It's a wonderful job when you're just wanting some quiet time. Just make little twigs. This is camellia. You can do them as individual, but it really is much quicker if you use 2 or 3 at the same time. Depending on your personality, you might want this to be absolutely perfect in the circles, in which case you would do these singular. I tend to have more of a rustic personality. I think that's a polite way of saying a wee bit messy. And so I'm just plonking them in. If you have a camellia tree available to you, they are wonderful for this type of work where you're just adding a little base to it. If you haven't got camellia, any of the standard foliages that you can get from a flower market will work. And it's just really starting off this rim. If your formal nature finds this hideous, spend a little bit more time and put them in neatly, all the way around. You can also cut the floral foam so it's absolutely flat against the rim of your container. This just does give a little bit more of a dimension. I'm cutting them so it's leaving a little stalk to push it in securely. This really does save on wiring. These days, gluing. In Europe it seems to be that they're using glue more than anything else. Wonderful for in a flower shop because you can use up all sorts of scraps and yet the finished result is quite sensational. You've added value if you've only got a single beautiful flower, because that's what you're going to put in the middle. Easy as that. We're going to start with the centre and go out, 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 out. So obviously the very first thing will be this dahlia. I'm not putting it right in because I want it to be on top, so I will push that in further later, but I'm going to that's just going to give me my circles. And then just as you saw before when I was using it, in these go. You can have these flat against the foam, or you can give it a little bit of a rise, as I'm doing here. Pushing them in a little bit more. I want that dahlia to be the absolute. And so now we can put the dahlia right in there. We've got the beginning already of this, and not much really now to have to keep on filling up. Make it a wee bit tighter. Taking off the foliage of these ones. That yellow foliage obviously already making that contrast. Just making these flowers a wee bit denser. Totally depends, this part of it, on how many flowers you have available, because if you're not using a big scale like this, and you're using a small scale, it can take a lot of flowers. And there's that next level. And now we're going to go for the rose level. So bring them over. Just as Margaret was showing you, climbing roses, very, very small stemmed. You can see there, if I cut them here, I'm only got 1 inch or 2 to work with. So you've got to make a decision if you're going to use them as a bunch or if you're going to use them as single roses. I'm going to use them as single roses, and I have cut them as much as I can. Now, climbing roses don't last nearly as long as commercial ones. If you want this to last a week, go for commercial roses. They're going to be smaller, not as varied, but they are going to last as long as the rest of this in the design. I'm going to put the roses so they just sit in there, and I'll cut them all off, and then I can just place them. Old-fashioned single climbing rose, this one. While I'm doing this, have a look at this lovely design. This was done for the French Cup recently, and you can see, even though it was designed to go around a champagne bottle, you can see he took this basic idea, nested the champagne bottle there in it, and then carried on and added row after row after row of the most magnificent flowers. There you'll see Gloriosa lilies in there, carnations, a beautiful combination that he did in there. Okay, back to me while you've been looking at that. I've been adding more roses. You probably heard me snipping them. Colour scheme I'm using is called a complementary colour scheme. In this case it's red and green, and it's a very, very vibrant colour scheme that just shows up both the red and the green incredibly well. I'll show it to you on the colour chart that we've got here. There's the red, that is the pure red, and you go down opposite and it is the pure green. But in complementary colour scheme it can be any of the shades of red, or it can be any of the white, the tints of green. And of course shades means black added, tints means white added. Other complementary colours, so red orange goes beautifully if you come down here with blue green. Orange and blue are complementary colours here. Red violet is the complement of, we call it lime green, it's actually yellow green. Value of a colour wheel is amazing. If you're wanting to get very vibrant colours and you want that complementary colour, just think opposites on the colour wheel. So that's what we're doing here by sticking to the red and to the green, and you can see that's why I've picked the hydrangea here with those tiniest little blush of pink in there to keep that going. Enough theory, let's get back to flower arranging. By keeping the scale very big, as I've done here, I've been able to use big flowers, and it really does mean you're having to use a lot less flowers. So there we are, gone right round now with those red roses. So beautiful. And now we're going to add another contrast, and the contrast of course is the reason for the parsley. Parsley goes, you can actually smell it. Margaret was talking about smell-o-vision. Well, definitely the parsley is a smell-o-vision. It's they've got very weak stems, so I've got to push them in from the bottom there. If you find something with a weak stem, use a toothpick. That will help put it in. In competitive work, if you were in a flower arranging club, this part here would be showing a little bit of that floral foam. So either cover the base first with a leaf, a big broad leaf, or really push them close together. You can see the floral foam there, so I'm just going to put another piece in there. Pushes it close together so the eye is looking at the top rather than the base. Other things you can use instead of parsley seeds, of course, is foxtail fern, Ming fern, any seed head. See what I mean about wonderful way to use up waste plant material that's lurking around after some bigger arrangement. See how by raising up that top part it's just given it a little bit more depth. You can start on the outside edge, you can start in the middle. Just as long as you keep going in these circles, it doesn't really matter. I have these beautiful agapanthus that are out at the moment in white and in this beautiful purple blue. By adding the white, it will create unity with this circle here. And I'm just checking to see how that would look. And then I say, or I add a blue, because this is a blue range, the roses are in the blue range of the colour wheel,
and add blue in there. I think the blue being a recessive colour is just a little bit insignificant. I mean, if you don't want to add another level like this, of course you can just go back, put some more roses in, whatever you've got most of really, and pop them in. Very soft stemmed, you've got to be quite careful. In some countries honeysuckle is not a weed, and that would be another lovely thing to have in here. Also it's got some beautiful little buds here of the rose. All parts of the rose can be used, the leaves, the buds. For example, you can pop the buds in between like this as well. Endless possibilities, of course, depending what your resources are, what you've got have available. As Pauline says, what your neighbours have got available. A very successful florist a couple of 100 kilometres away from here has a bamboo grove that he's not telling anybody about, that he found on the side of the road. He went in and asked the landowner's permission. It was on the boundary, and he now has a regular supply of bamboo that he gets free. This makes a huge difference to his costs in his flower shop, and it was simply because he knocked on someone's door. Okay, I'll just go right round here with the agapanthus, then we'll get back. So there it is done, having completed the circle. It took 2 white agapanthus in the end just to get that circle completed, and I've just put 2 little buds there and there of the roses, mainly because I didn't have enough to go right the way around, but didn't think it needed. I think it's like that, sensational, and a wonderful way to have roses integrated with other flowers that you're able to collect. Have a go with it, because it's really a lovely technique, and you know, everybody likes it. It's just so wonderful. Before we finish, I just thought I'd show you same technique really, but just by going upwards. But this is very, very French in style, this one. You see it everywhere in France, but I'll just show you some of the techniques with it. It's a very old-fashioned little urn that they used to have in the 50s with their great big English classic style traditional work. And inside it I have put floral foam. I've actually put the floral foam on its edge, and there's 2 pieces of it which I have connected with skewers so they hold together, and then wedged it into the urn. And then I just really had fun. I wanted it obviously for Christmas, and so I added all sorts of Christmas smells and things. The first thing I had was, if you have a close-up there you'll see, cinnamon sticks. These I bought by the box. The best place to find them, the cheapest place to find them, is in an Indian or an Asian supermarket. You just take 3 of them, and in this case I used a little bit of decorative yellow wire. Fold the wire in half around it. Couldn't really be easier. Once, twice, 3 times if you're feeling generous with your wire, and then twist it. And that will give you your little bundle, which with a pair of very old scissors or your wire cutters cut off, and that just pushes easily into the floral foam. Now this floral foam was not wet, it was dry all the time, and that's why I've used these rather hideous green roses. The reason I did use them is because of their colour. I wanted it to be quite bright in a very dark part of the house. You can get so much better artificial roses now, or freeze-dried ones as well, but you can also use fresh ones in this design, remembering that it's not wet, that floral foam that's there. But you can get tiny little test tubes such as these, and all you need to do is push the test tube into the foam. I'll use a spare piece here just to show you. They will go in quite easily where you want them, and put them on a slope, and then of course a little bit of water, and add your rose into it. And so that way you can use real roses in this sort of design if you'd prefer. I mean, they do look nicer, don't they? That's why we do fine flower arranging. So there's the roses. I've also done the same way little bundles of dried chilies, which I also got from an Indian supermarket, and these flowers here They're called straw flowers, and I'm lucky enough to be able to grow them. Now, to attach these, because they can be quite short stemmed, pearl-headed pin in the same as your colour scheme, just push it through the centre, and then of course it gives you the little thing you need to push it in, but it also provides another little accent there. The other thing I used were honesty seeds. Now these were picked green. They're actually, the plant was pulled out before they started to dry, so they've dried that beautiful green colour, and I've used hot glue just to pop those in, and all the time trying to cover up the floral foam but give it depths. The other thing was star anise. Now that's what star anise looks like. This was bought from the supermarket. Once again, try your Indian supermarket. A normal supermarket you'll get star anise, and the smell is divine, and they are very dark, so it's a recessive colour, and I have glued them, hot glue again, into the centre of some of these helichrysums, and so that this was put in our kitchen, and over the whole festive season the smell was beautiful. Just a few little Christmas decorations, really just to get the bling, just to get a bit of shine and another shape. And so these were ordinary Christmas baubles that you buy very, very cheaply at a supermarket at that time of the year, and I've hot glued a toothpick into them. So that's another idea. By going upwards, it's not as geometrical and circular as a Biedermeier would be, but in the French style it's far more all mixed up and grouped in 1s, 2s, 3s and 5s. But it does give a wonderful, very, very elegant, chic French style look for anywhere you want to put it. And of course, because I have used these artificial roses, it does mean that I can put this in a cupboard and bring it out next Christmas. For a busy lady, that's vital. So I hope you really enjoyed this DVD with some of my favourite Waikato designers, and it's given you some more fresh ideas of what to do with your roses, whether you've bought them or you're growing them or your neighbour is. See you next time.
This design, I'm going to tell you how I did it. Inside here is, the container is floral foam.
So start again. Yeah.
This design I'm going to show you and tell you how I did it. First of all, inside the container is floral. I can't get it out.
Fleur, 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 fleur. Okay, and
We're
again.
not going to cut that bit out.
No, we're going to put that one on the end.
On the end as I do fun.
Watch it.
The fleur, fleur, fleur. Okay, start again.
Floral.
Floral, yeah.
How long have you been doing flowers?
But she's never used floral
I've used
foam.
Oasis, you see.
She's never used
You
floral
throw
foam.
that at me and it
Yeah.
throws me.
Fleur. Okay, start again from the beginning.
This design now I'm going to tell you how I did it. Just to start off with, inside the container is floral foam.